Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those of you around the world. Welcome to the daily Trade the Chain crypto update, where we give you everything you need to know for the next 24 hours and hopefully the next few days. Today is Thursday, January 19th, and we are nearing the end of the trading week after a dip in trading yesterday and a bit of consolidation overnight and into the U.S. session this morning. No big action out of DXY. When we spoke yesterday, we had met the lows currently. We are still being, tested underneath the previous daily close, which is currently acting as resistance. And of course, if this heads lower towards 101.2, which we mentioned yesterday, risk should head higher. And of course, if this ends up heading higher, risk should head lower. So very difficult position to trade in if you are a DXY based trader. If this stays flat, I would expect, risks to have a bit of a flourishing moment. And of course, as well as if it goes down. And the only negative I see right now is if this starts spiking up relatively quickly, which doesn't look entirely likely, but definitely something to watch out for. So tentatively, DXY looks like it's either going to flatten or lower. Look for a bust above 102.4 for potential attack to 103.4, which could, stuff the current move that we'll go over in equities and Bitcoin that are currently trying to recover. So just quickly, something I wanted to note is the double top in Bitcoin sentiment directly led to, we have decreased sentiment. It is now bearish for the first time in quite some time. That, of course, does not mean that we're going to slice through 20.5, but it is definitely something to watch out for. This could mean one of two things. Either we're nearing a temporary bottom and sentiment will come back up, and we'll know that if it breaks above the 50 level. And if sentiment stays below the 50 level, then we may be, testing 20K, in the near future, which I think is relatively likely. But I do have a feeling that we might try and tag 21.1 before that happens, and 21.1 should be a pivot. So let's just go ahead and move to the Bitcoin chart. We'll come back to equities because I think most of you are probably trading crypto, but there's a good inference to make from equities based on what we're looking at. So drew these for the Trade the Chain community this morning. I called out 21.1 as a key pivot level. It lines up with the weekly VWAP, which is very important. It's where we were rejected off of on the retest of the move yesterday. We've traded beneath the kind of the VWAP cloud, if you want to call it that, and now we are just breaking into that VWAP cloud. So the three options for today are, of course, get above 21.1. You have a chance to attack 21.5. If you get above 21.5, then you have a chance to head higher towards 22. If you get above 21.1, you could also get rejected at 21.5, which I think would be a little bit more likely unless equity started to show some more strength. And then, that rejection would probably send you back down to at least 20.6, maybe 20.5. And of course, if we are just straight up rejected at 21.1, and end up heading back down here, there is a strong possibility of us, dipping lower down to 20K flat. And this, this 1 hour 200 moving average may act as a little bit of support because you can see Confluence is now lining up with 20.2, which was the low from January 14th. So, 20.2 to 20K should be a decent zone for a potential long or mean reversion, at least back up to 20.6 if 20.6 fails. So something to consider just for various, target points. So I'm still thinking that we at least tag 21.1 today. And then that'll be a very key decision point on whether or not we get rejected or accept and move higher back towards the high end of the range. So keep a lookout for that. I'm currently kind of positioned for a long into 21.1. If it fails, invalidation is easy. It has to break out of the cloud. So I'm kind of trading. I'll zoom in a little bit, kind of trading this cloud, if you will. I'll go ahead and get rid of these because we're aware of what the outlook is for Bitcoin. But you can see here, tap the cloud, confirmed higher in, and now I would expect us to slowly creep up to 21 to mid, 2160. 2150, 2100, something like that. So that's kind of my expectation. That could completely fail. Again, if it exits the cloud, easy invalidation. So that's kind of my outlook for short term. Not putting a whole lot of weight behind this. Most of my weight was behind the trade down yesterday, and just kind of relaxing. Definitely, might be overzealous, but the reason I'm kind of interested in this is because equities seem to be forming some sort of temporary bottom. And now what we drew for the trade the chain community this morning was if we could get above the 39.10 level, then you can attack previous daily close, maybe top of that range. If you are rejected at the 39.10 level, then you're probably coming back to 39.75. We were, but it's still holding up the low from early this morning. Well, not entirely, but it's still holding, around that level and forming what you might expect to be a potential reversal pattern. So if this ends up holding here and, trying to run back towards 39.10 or higher, I would expect crypto to maybe have a bit of a flourishing moment. Because the interesting thing about this, if you notice, is equities seeped lower from the lows yesterday. Crypto has only gone higher. So there's a bit of divergence there from equities versus crypto, which may signal some relative strength of crypto for, a potential trade. And that's kind of how I'm looking at this trade. And of course, my invalidation is clear. I could be invalidated while we're talking to you, but that's the attempt you make. And then if we make it up to 21, I'll start thinking about shorts, or we'll definitely be patient to see if we get a rejection or acceptance, but definitely we'll be thinking about shorts at 21.1. So outlook for equities in comparison to Bitcoin, I'm not trading equities. I'm just using them as a weather vane. Relative strength plus potential equities recovery may equal crypto having some sort of small recovery on its own. So similar to Ethereum, Ethereum similar to Bitcoin, and difference in terms of trade outlook here as well. Is rejected at the cloud, so may not be the best sign that alts are facing a little bit of trouble, but still we're on the hourly here, so still a different outlook, and that's also why I'm long Bitcoin and not ETH. I think Bitcoin seems to be a bit more of a stronger asset, but again, could be wrong here. The outlook for the trade the chain community, it still holds, is if we can stay above this POC 1530, you can move back up to the VWAP at 1560 and then maybe get back up to the top end of the range. If you make it back up to the top end of the range, potential rejection. You also have to fear rejection at the VWAP. And then if we end up getting rejected and lose 1500, then you're probably hanging out around 1430 for a potential mean reversion play back up to 1500. So again, very similar to Bitcoin. If this VWAP cloud rejects price action and we end up heading lower, it would definitely not surprise me if we did end up breaking that supports and kind of mirrored this move for equities, especially if equities continue to remain weak. But on the other hand, if equities show a little bit of strength, then I would expect ETH to maybe attack the 1 week VWAP around 1560 for acceptance or rejection. So 1560 is the same kind of pivot point that we have for 21.1 on Bitcoin. So if you get above that, you have room for the top of the range. Below it, you're back down to the low end of the range, potentially breaking it. Same for ETH. Break it, up, rejected, lower, potentially even lower. So that's really the best way to look at this, in my opinion. A confirm above the weekly VWAP would definitely be very strong, considering that was, what kept us at the top end of the range previously. And of course, staying above the low end of the range would definitely be a sign of strength in the markets. And so, that might bring in some risk buyers to kind of refloat this rally. But of course, nothing is confirmed or given to us easy. So if you want, the possible trade for ETH is if it gets back up into the cloud, trade it back up to the VWAP. Another possible trade, long VWAP acceptance, short VWAP rejection. And then, then we can reassess for what that strength looks like when we come back down to support around 1510, 1500. It could end up slicing through, like I said, depending on what equities do. If equities start dripping lower than 38.75, then I would assume that the floor is going to open up for crypto a little bit. Doesn't mean that the whole move is done. But then if you break below 20K, you really start to consider, do we still have life left in this rally, or are we headed back to the lows of at least December? So stuff to consider. Nothing really to glean too much from perp and spot. The biggest thing right now is spot is definitely selling off a little bit on this move higher. It was definitely led by perps. Of course, perps could sell off and come down to meet spot, or spot could move up to meet perps. Typically, I would say, definitely be wary of the, well, actually, I will say be wary. If you are long, this is a fantastic consideration to think about for the bear side of the trade, is that if you are trying to get long, spot has been selling off a little bit, but this does almost look like some sort of reversal pattern in spots, which could catch up for a quick little boost before selling back off again. Again, spot doesn't have to meet perps for it to rise again, and perps can still outpace spot. So this is just kind of a idea that the potential momentum is waning, and it's a consideration to make, but it's not the end all be all until I think perps kind of break below this double bottom LTF level, and the same for if spot breaks below this kind of double bottom spot area too. So all different considerations to make if you are trading this chop. Please be careful. This is not the best trading environment. Of course, I do this for a living, so I'm comfortable with taking my risk and defining what I can and can't lose. But at the end of the day, I think the safer trade is going to be around 21.1. It's going to be around 1560 for Ethereum. And then we will have a good signal for moving higher tomorrow and potentially into the weekend, or moving lower tomorrow and potentially into the weekend. So good luck, happy trading. And again, if you're not in the Trade the Chain community, that's where all the juicy stuff comes in. We actually do have a new trader joining us in the community that we'll be talking about online and in the community soon. So good time to get in and get situated and start soaking up some juicy crypto alpha. So good luck, happy trading. Speak to everybody tomorrow.